We've had many different speakers over the last couple of years. And each year, I try and bring in individuals who grew up in Brockton, sat in 5th grade seats in elementary schools in Brockton, transitioned to middle school, faced obstacles like we all do in life, and through hard work and determination and having some grit, we're able to work towards their goals and become amazing individuals. And we've had different people. We had Trey Chula Hall a few weeks ago from the Brockton Rocks, who's baseball is his path. We had Yasmina Cavallo, who's the women's soccer coach at Bridgewater State, was here. She was a Brockton student. Her path was through soccer. We had Kevin Walsh, who showed us that, we can make mistakes in life. And your story is not written, it's what you do next. He's done it through boxing. And Mike is someone that I've been excited to have join us since I asked him back in the fall. Because, yes, there's a sports part of his story, but more importantly, his story is all about hard work and determination to be what it is you want to be. We're going to talk about Mike in a moment. Mike grew up in Pine Estates. Mike went to the Hancock School, correct? Yes, sir. So many of you here live in Pine Estates. Mike went to the Hancock, you come to the Angelo. He then went to middle school in Brockton and Brockton High School, but he's got a great story through hard work in that. Nothing's given, but we talked, Yasmina Cavallo talked about making sure you're working hard so when doors open, you're ready to go ahead and take advantage of an opportunity. And Mike will get to talk about that. So Mike, first of all, good morning.
Good morning.
Can you start by, let's just think about you as a 5th grader. So these kids here, for you was different, because years ago, it was K to 6, and then the junior high was grade 7 and 8.
Yes.
So you made that switch from 6th to 7th grade. Talk a bit to us about your memories as a 5th grader, and then when you think about you as 6th to 7th grade, that transition to middle school. But talk about you as a 5th grader.
So for me, 5th grade was a interesting year for me. I was a very small boy when I was growing up. So I was little 1st grade through 4th grade, and I actually got bullied in school. When I say bullied, so my parents thought that it was important to make sure that we dressed well going to school. My father worked at a clothing store, so we sold men's clothes, so we always dressed well. A little too well for a 5th grader, wasn't that? My dad would try to dress me like a grown person, meaning that, have you ever seen a 5th grader with a trench coat? No, I had trench coat. You ever have a 5th grader wear penny loafers to school on a regular basis? That'd be me. So I used to have to walk on my toes. That's why my calves are so big, because I walked on my toes because my shoes used to make sounds. When I would walk, they would make that click, 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 like I had on heels sounds. So I would walk on my toes the whole time so my shoes wouldn't make those noises. But I used to get bullied and picked on to the point where they would take like the belt out of my jacket and hit me with the belt on my, hit me with the belt because I dressed like, I don't know, Inspector Gadget or some type of nerd. In 5th grade, I grew. I got to be like this big when I was in 5th grade. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be honest, I took revenge on all of those people that picked on me. I was the baddest, biggest that was in the school, and I made them all pay. I was probably a bully until I was about 7th grade too, and then I saw a TV show that said bullying is bad, and I stopped doing that. But I'm not gonna lie, all those dudes that tormented me, they got what they deserved in the 5th and the 6th grade. But academically, I was in, I don't know what you guys have it now, but I was 2 classes above.
Okay.
So in 5th grade, I was taking, say, 7th grade math and 7th grade English and 7th grade classes. So I was in the highest level classes. So I was double advanced. So I never got to see any of my friends that I grew up with in any class that I had. So I was always all by myself. In fact, it's different than Brockton High now. I'm different than Brockton now in that when I was in middle school, I was the only black kid in my class. Not in the school, but I was the only black kid in class from 1st grade all the way to 11th grade. I never had another person of color, not Spanish, not Cape Verdean, not anything in any class that I was in ever, from 1st grade to I graduated. So it was a different experience for me being singled out and special. But I didn't realize my gifts at that particular point in time as a 5th grader, as many of us don't. I just had people, teachers that looked out for me, kept me out of trouble, and put me in the places where I was supposed to be. So I was very fortunate in that regard.
That's excellent. So Mike, when you were fifth grader, sixth grader. What interest? I mean, obviously, we're going to get into what you did later on in life and that, but your fifth and sixth grade, what are your things to do then?
We didn't have the internet, so and I don't think that I had a gaming system at that particular point. So everything we did was outside. I've coached football for a long time, and I've seen the transition of young people. And one of the things that I noticed that you guys don't do that we did is we played. We played outside. We ran. We did every single sport. I think that I did bowling, basketball, golf, tennis, football. Baseball was my favorite. I even played hockey. We even played street hockey back then. Wiffle ball. We played every single sport. We tried every single thing. So everything was outside. If we, when the door was open in the morning till the lights came on at night, we was outside playing, like running and playing. We didn't stay in the house playing video games, searching on the internet, reading any of that stuff like that. So for us, it was a different time. I think it was better. I think it makes us more well-rounded to be able to be outside, to have as many things to do. I don't think that young people today are taking advantage of everything there is to do outside of the home. And I know COVID had a lot to do with that, but I think that there's a lot more that they can be doing outside. Like I said, we did everything outside. For me, it was really not even, I wouldn't say sports, it was just activity, just being active. Because, we had 3 channels to watch on TV. That was it, So.
You had to hold the antenna sometimes to make sure it was going through.
Exactly.
And it's funny because just yesterday we had our fifth grade soccer and kickball day. We try and do a lot of special events the end of the year for the kids. But explaining kickball, like a lot of our kids weren't sure the rules, things like that, because they haven't played enough. And we're not saying it's a negative thing, we're just saying it's different. A lot of you guys have your gaming systems and they're really fun in that, but it's important to get outdoors and be active doing things too, because when we grew up, we're within a year of each other. You had no choice. That was all you could do was get out and play.
Right.
I think play's the key word there.
Absolutely.
So Mike, you did go from elementary school to middle school. So you talked about your size, your change, your stature. What do you remember about switching though from elementary school being like the big dog? In this case, it was sixth grade to going to junior high, where now you're starting over again, because these guys in September are going to be walking to middle school as those sixth graders, as the younger part of the building again.
The one thing that I've noticed that hasn't changed is that having a good friend group helps the transition. So when you have a group of individuals that are all like-minded, like I said, I didn't have a lot of friends in my classes, but we rode the bus together, we hung out together, we had gym together, we had lunch together. So you have your group of friends that are gonna lead you in the right path. I actually had really good friends. And even the 8th grade, like I said, growing up in Pine Grove for me personally was one of the best experiences that I could ever have. In that, growing up in a community like that, I had the opportunity to make 15 friends, 20 friends. You have built-in friends when you walked out the door. So when I went to middle school, the whole bus is coming from Pine Grove. The whole bus is coming from Chatham West. So we had those friends that traveled with us. So it didn't change much for me from a dynamic standpoint, because almost all of, at the time, we didn't have all the middle schools, so all of West was all of Hancock. So my 6th grade class, or 5th grade and 6th grade class at West, it was the same people that I went to school at Hancock. We didn't have the school choice that they have now, where we're getting kids from the east side, south side. So it was only West Side kids going to West Junior High. It was only Pine Grove and Oak Street guys that were going to West Junior High. So the transition was a little bit easier, because you're gonna go to school with them and you're gonna come home with them, and then we're gonna go play with them, and then we're gonna all be after school together, and then we're gonna all be on the bus together, going to the same place together. So that was my experience, in that we always had a built-in friend group that made that transition easier, because we were together all the time.
And it's funny you say that, because we always talk about not changing who you are to impress other people, find your right group. And I know that your tight circle of friends are the same now that they were as you were a kid. So that's something special. I know you have those same people that you're still your day ones, basically.
Absolutely.
So let's think about you had your friend group, but sometimes we have those different role models we look up to. So you're a kid. Who are you looking up to as your role models as you're navigating your way through early years of school?
So there was there was one guy that lived in Pine Grove, and his name was Brian Massey, and he was a year older than me, and I admired him in that he was a really good athlete, really good basketball player, but he was tough, but he also looked out for me, meaning that when I say looked out, he wasn't gonna let me get in trouble. Like, if there was trouble around, you need to leave, you need to go home, you're not gonna get involved in this. They wouldn't let me do anything, like anything. So as far as like just neighborhood role models, he was my guy. Like, he took care of me, he gave me his bike, like he passed stuff down to me and stuff like that. He looked out for me. So that was the guy that I looked up to. And again, he was the baddest man in 7th grade. He was the baddest man in 8th grade. And then he gave me that title going forward. So he always protected me, always looked out for me. And that was like one of the guys that I really looked up to. And he was only a year older than me, you know what I mean? And then when I got to high school, it was different. I had my eyes, or my expectations, I guess, grew, and they became different. So I had different role models at different parts of my life.
What do you think led someone like Brian Massey to take you under the wing that way?
I've been blessed.
Just chance? Do you think it was something?
Yes and no. I would say is that, the universe has whatever it has in store for all of us. For me, my life has been a series of blessings in that I've had people put before me, in front of me, or around me that have always allowed me to do things that I don't know why or how I could have done it otherwise. So the universe, God, Lord, putting Brian Massey in my life to protect me, allowing me to meet certain individuals along the way. I've been blessed at every level of my life. So I don't know why, but it's just the way it was. It's the way it is. It's the
I got
way
you.
it is.
Yep. So when we think about the academic part, you're going through middle school, now you're getting ready for high school. Let's turn the topic to football when we think about you, because there's a lot to Mike Williams, but there's a football part to you too, a big part of your life. Let's talk about you as a football player though. Like, some of our kids here do play. Now it's junior boxers and the Raiders. When you were a kid, it was the Brockton Middle School, midget league, and it was basically east, west, north, and south, same as the schools. Take us through, like, and it's kind of a chance for you to tout all about yourself. You're like, playing as a kid through high school, Brockton football was different than you guys were top of the world. I know you ended up playing the Shriners games, so like, you were very successful at football, but talk about football from a kid. 3-time Boston College, that journey we took you on.
So for me, football was, like all sports, I think, should be a means to an end, because none of us are going to play football until retirement, or any sport. If any of you guys are going to be playing soccer, baseball, basketball, volleyball, football, it doesn't really matter the sport that you're going to play. You're going to be done playing that sport in your mid-20s at some point in time, and then life starts. For me, I never thought about playing professional sports. I just thought that sports were fun. Like I said, I've done sports since I was 10 years old, 8 years old. I've been playing baseball and football since I was a young kid. But one of the things that I learned early on, I'm the oldest of 3 boys, so I don't have the luxury of a lot of things. I don't have the luxury of a safety net. I don't have the luxury of someone paving the way, and I certainly didn't have the luxury of quitting anything. Quitting anything was something that was foreign to me and should be foreign to everybody. You make a commitment to something that you should stick to. And that's something that my father instilled in me. It didn't matter if I liked it or not, you're gonna finish. You pick up an instrument, you're gonna play it until you finish it, or you're gonna let the cycle run. You're gonna play the sport you signed up, you're gonna play. There was no quitting. My parents didn't allow me to quit, my mother didn't allow me to quit, and my father didn't allow me to quit. And I think that that's something that is lost in today's, that quitting has become too easy. It's become accepted. And I think it's a nasty habit that we have. I think that there's something to be said about adversity, something to be said about trudging through something that you don't like, because at the end of the day, it's gonna make you better. It's gonna build you up. Whether you appreciate the experience or not, you're going to be a better person on the other side of that. So for football's a tough sport. And I can understand why people don't want to play it anymore. Nobody wants to get their face smashed in. Nobody wants to eat dirt on a regular basis. Nobody wants to roll on the ground. They want to be in a nice gymnasium where it's nice and warm and comfortable, and their parents can sit and clap in the stands and not get cold and not get wet and not get hit. And I get it. And that's why I love the game of football personally, is because I think that it teaches a certain level of mental toughness that cannot be replicated in any other sport. Maybe boxing, fighting, or combat sports, but in any other sport. Every other sport, you strike out, you walk back to the bench. You miss a free throw, you walk back to the bench. In football, you make a mistake, you get punched in the face. Period. You get punched in the face. If you don't get punched in the face, then somebody else gets punched in the face. So there's a certain level of physicality that I appreciate or expect, but it teaches you a lesson. Like pain is one heck of a teacher. So for me, I've always used football as the lessons that it teaches. Even when I've coached football, I'm not trying to make you guys professional football players or the best football players. Both of your sons work with me and play with me. And the number one thing, the first thing that I tell every single class, students, people that I teach, whether I'm coaching at camps or clinics at the high school or thing, my job isn't to teach you to be better football players. My job is to teach you to be better young people, better young men. I've coached young women, but better young people. I want you to be better brothers, better sisters, better sons, better cousins, and if someday better fathers. And I think that football has allowed me to experience all of those things, but I've coached long enough to see it come full circle. So my journey with football has been a learning lesson, using the lessons I've gotten from football to help me become a professional in every aspect of my life. So, and I say that whether you guys want to be good rappers, whether you want to be actors, whether you want to be on YouTube, whether you want to play the cello, the flute, the violin, the drums, it's going to require hard work to be a professional at anything. Doesn't whether you want to be an HVAC or a mechanic, you need to be a professional. And there's many different ways to do it, but there's some commonality for everything. So if you want to be good at anything, it's going to require practice. It's going to require preparation, and it's going to require dedication. And sometimes it's going to require failing, and not quitting, but failing, and then getting back up and doing it again. And too often times, people fail and quit, fail and quit. You see it with the NIL, you see it with the transfer portal. They don't want to work hard anymore and try to overcome adversity, and I think that that's a poor showing. Football doesn't allow that. Football, you got another play, you got another play, you got another play. You gotta keep going, and you're not gonna win all the battles. You're not gonna be 100%, but the part of the game that I think is the most important is the part that teaches you that you have to get back up and keep going. And football has done that for me. I've never ever ran away from my responsibility. I've never ever ran away from failure. I've always accepted accountability and responsibility for my mistakes. My bad, my bad, my bad. I've grown up, I've been a grown young man since I was 12 years old. And that I don't point the finger at people. I say, that was my fault. That was my fault. I don't lie about it. I don't try to put it on somebody else. I've accepted responsibility. Then again, I was the oldest, so it was built into me to accept responsibility at a young age. If I did something and I messed up, I'm gonna own that, I'm gonna eat it. Whatever the punishment that comes with that. Football has taught, I learned that through football. I've learned more through the game of football than I ever did at college or school or law school. Football has taught me how to negotiate and talk to people, how to deal with people. I've met my best friends through football. I've learned my greatest lessons through football, and I believe that a lot of my toughness has been nurtured through the game, not the X's and O's part, but learning how to be tougher is a lost art. I think that as parents, as adults, we try to make it easy for young people, and we don't let them get hurt. And I say this jokingly, but I can say this, so when I get kids, so I've coached football, kids from age 10 to college. I'm coaching at the high school now, and I see some of these kids that are 14 and 15 years old, and they come up, and I can tell by looking at some of these kids, some kids who have never, ever been punched in the mouth. And that's a good thing, but I'm not talking about getting physically punched in the mouth, but have never engaged in anything physical whatsoever. And I think it's tragic. They've not fallen, they've not gotten a cut, they've not gotten hurt at all because
By the age of 15, 14,
by the 15, their parents have done such a great job putting that bubble around them that they haven't experienced any level of pain. Pain, I'm talking like physical or emotional pain. And so the first time they're challenged in a sport, it's a foreign concept to them. And I think that that's something that's missing, but that's what football has done for me, and that's what I think football does for a lot of people. It challenges them physically, and it challenges them mentally. Like I said, I'm over the hitting part of the game, like people smashing faces and everything like that, but I think that, we run hard, we jump hard, we hit hard, we move fast. There's a lot of things, and a lot of people don't want to do that, and they're like, nah, this is not for me. That's fine, it's not for everybody, but I will say that every young person that I've coached that has made it through remembers those experiences. And I think that sports, when done right, with the right mentors, with the right group of people, will leave a lasting impression upon you and your development, and you'll see it. Like I said, I've coached 33 years now, and the kids that I coached at 10 will come up to me and still talk about what happened when they were 10 or 11, 20 something years ago. But I also see it practiced in their everyday life, the lessons we've learned from the football field or TGA or at the gym or anything like that. I've seen it in real life practice in all of their professions.
No, and we're going to get to that a bit later because you've given so much back to so many different people. Just to finish up on Brockton High talk, so again, Brockton High School was the program in the state. Before your time and during your time, you guys were up there. A lot of great players you played with. I mentioned a moment ago, the Shriners All-Star Classic is a game for the best high school players. You played in the Shriners game as a senior. Who would you say, not to put you on the spot, but all the players you either watched the kid or you've seen later in life, who are the best 3 players you think from Brockton High School? No pressure, they might hear this, but.
So my all-time favorite player to watch ever is Anthony Coma. Anthony Coma was he was a freak of nature, and he played running back for Brockton in I would say the early 90s. And he ended up going to Boston College, and he could do everything, like every single position. He could run, throw, kick, block, punt. Every single position on the field he could actually play, but he was an outstanding running back. And I don't know that anybody, I know that there's others. I got to play with Rudy Harris, who might have been the greatest running back ever to come out, but he was a grown man. And then, so Anthony Coma, Rudy Harris, he was just too dominant. And my nephew, who's a Hall of Famer, Dominique Williams, on all 3 sides of the field. Now I say Dominique Williams, not just because he's my nephew, but because I saw his journey. I saw a young man who was not inherently gifted. He didn't start off being the best. He wasn't a superstar as a freshman, he wasn't a superstar as a sophomore, and he was just an also-ran as a junior. But his senior year, he put on a performance that I've never seen replicated in the last 20 years. On all 3 sides of the ball, he might have been the most dominant player in high school football that year, and I've never seen anything like it from one person who wasn't the greatest all the way up. Those other guys were great from freshman year, from day one, sophomore year. They could have been brought up. Rudy played varsity as a freshman. Anthony Coma was brought up. But Dominique was not that guy. And to watch him work to get to that point, that's what made it special for me, because I saw his hard work actually become something that everybody could see. So it wasn't just hidden away. And then those are the 3 best. But my favorite player to watch of all time was Peter Marciano. Peter Marciano was 5'6", 150 pounds maybe, but he was the toughest son of a gun. He was the fastest, he was the best. He was the most electric young man that I saw watching. And as a young kid, a young black kid, this little 5-foot white kid was who I wanted to be. Because he was that dude. He was that dude. I mean, I watched him do things on the football field. He actually ended up going to college on a football scholarship and played baseball in college for Iowa Hawkeyes. Sadly, he's passed away. But growing up, I remember, because I went to school with his brothers, Rocky and Steven. Growing up, that was the guy. He was that guy that I wanted to be.
And you were a middle schooler at that point. He was
Yeah,
that boy, so
they were the best team. They were the best team in the state. So that would have been 84. They were graduating. So yeah, I was coming into high school as a freshman that year.
So we talk about overcoming obstacles. Obviously, football is the hot sport. You mentioned that already. You ended up being a very successful high school player. I talked about, but what kind of obstacles did you have to overcome? You talked about as an elementary student being bullied a bit because you were a sharp-dressed young man. You're still a sharp-dressed young man, but it's different now, right? At 55, 54.
It's okay now.
Yeah, it's okay now. What kind of obstacles do you have to overcome? Because all these kids here, as adults and kids, we all face obstacles daily. And the question, talk about not quitting. Quitting's not allowed. So what are some obstacles you had to face like throughout high school to be successful as you were?
So this unfortunately is all too common. So my parents split up when I was 13 years old. 12 years old. So I'm the oldest of three. My youngest brother is 6 years younger than me. So I'm 12, 13 years old. And every day I gotta get home to go get my brother from daycare, who's 6 years old. So I gotta take care of my brother. My father doesn't get home from work till 7. So I, like many of you, have responsibilities that maybe young kids shouldn't have, but we do. And we have to take care of our younger siblings. And having to take care of your younger siblings with no choice leaves not a lot of room for other stuff. So you couldn't go and hang out and live your own life because I'm taking care of my younger brother. I gotta make dinner for my younger brother. I gotta watch where my younger brother's at. I gotta make sure that he's with me or he's taken care of and accounted for. The other thing too is neither one of my parents, my mother only graduated 10th grade and then my father was a high school graduate. But for me, like I told you, so I'm already double advanced. My parents could not help me with my homework after 9th grade. There was no assistance in the house for me to say, hey, can you help me with this? Because they just didn't have the wherewithal to do that. So I'm on my own having to figure it out, navigate how to do that. And the other thing too is being the only person of color in class is sort of isolating in that you don't have a lot of, like, so when I'm on the bus going back and forth to Pine Grove, I see them on the bus, but I don't see them in school, in class. So it's not like we can do a homework club together, or we can hang out together, or we can brainstorm and talk about work. So school was very challenging and difficult for me because where I grew up and how I grew up wasn't what was being taught in school. So I didn't write well, I didn't speak well. So there was a lot of things, my home life didn't necessarily translate to my school life. So having to navigate between those two was challenging. And I can say I wasn't the best student my freshman and sophomore year or even middle school because I was in a foreign place for me particularly. So it was difficult to make sure that I had my grades where they were supposed to be because I was really navigating that on my own. I didn't have parents that would say, let me correct your homework or check. If the grade came in good, they was happy. That was all that mattered, you know.
And it's interesting that my next question was going to be the importance for you of schoolwork in school. And obviously, talk about the doors that, because we try and say to kids often that, you know, you build on a foundation. You talk about from day one, building habits, routines to be successful. The importance of school and what opportunities schooling and your school work, your good grades, opened up for you along the way.
So after freshman year, I had a mentor, another teacher that came, and he became my mentor going through, and he used to challenge me all the time as to what I wanted to do. I knew at 13, so freshman year, 13 years old, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer at 13 years old. So when I went to high school, I did law day in middle school, law day in high school. So I knew that I started taking law classes at the high school. So I knew I wanted to go to law school. And he used to ask me, well, how do you plan on going to law school with those grades? I'm like, I'm going to law school because I knew everything at 13 that I need to know for the world, right? So he's like, Mr. Williams, you need to take care of your grades and start doing better. So after my freshman year, I did make a concerted effort to get better. High school just got, or classwork and schoolwork just got easier for me. When I graduated Brockton High, I think there was 1,000 kids that graduated with us. So I started not that great, but I ended up, I think, number 72 in the class of 1,000. So I'm in the top 10% of kids that are graduating from Brockton High. As I stated, I'm probably the only person of color that's in that range. So for me, personally, I had the opportunity to go to any school I wanted to go to. Any school I wanted to. I applied to every school that you want to go to in Massachusetts, and I got into every single school I applied to. Not because of football. I didn't plan on playing football after high school. My goal was to go to college and become a lawyer. Well, I did that, but along the way, football presented itself. But I didn't go to school to play football. I played football while I was in school. There's a difference. So the principal of West Junior High, Carlton Campbell, he was my teammate at Boston College. So he was one of the guys that came in when I went to Boston College as well. He's at Boston College to play football. He was on a scholarship. I was at Boston College as a student who happened to play football. So I didn't have to play if I didn't want to. I chose to play. But again, the quitting part never occurred to me. Being academically excellent, I guess, is going to open more doors for all of you everywhere, all the time. All the time. Being smart is the #1 asset that you can have because it doesn't leave you. You're going to get hurt at sports. You're going to run into other people that are going to be better. You're going to, at some point, you're going to physically tap out. You're only going to get so tall. You're only going to be so fast. You're only going to be so strong. But you will never stop growing your mind. You will never stop getting smarter. If that's something that you want to do, I am 54 years old today and I learn something every day. Every single day I'm learning something new, every day, and I can continue to grow. My body is declining, but my mind is not. That's one thing that I think that people really need to understand is that it's not all about sports, it's not about athletics, it is about your mentality. And I think that as young people, as old people, the more you think, the more you grow, the better you're going to be and the more successful your life will be.
So before we get to college and your career after that, one thing I ask every speaker, Mike, is that if I had a time machine, and I don't, but if I had a time machine, think of all the life lessons you've learned along the way. If you could go back and talk to your 5th grade self, we could send you back to sit down with your 5th grade self, what advice would you give to a young Mike Williams?
Every single thing you do counts. Every single thing you do counts. And today it's even more poignant because the kids, young people have a tendency to try to record everything. So it lives on in posterity. When I was young, you could make a mistake and some people will remember it. Some people would remember it and hold it against you. But now you're recording your mistakes. And so every single thing you do counts. Every post you make, every picture you take, everything you put on social media, everything you do that you think doesn't matter, does. At 40 years old, they're going to ask about that thing that happened when you were 12. At 50 years old, they're going to ask about that thing that happened when you were 16. And you're thinking, oh, that was so long ago. Oh, that was so long ago. It all matters because they're going to look at you from a seedling when you were a kid to how you've grown. And they want to see the progression. They want to see if you've continued to grow, if you've stagnated. Are you the same person you are in the 5th grade that you were in the 7th grade? And are you the same 7th grader that you were as a 10th grader? And if you're that same person, then you're not growing. People want to see your growth, and people that know you, whether it's your parents, your family, your aunts, your uncles, or your educators, they all want to see that growth in you. And so everything you do counts. So, I wrote a book when I was in 4th grade. I had to bind it and everything like that. I gave that book to my English teacher, my high school English teacher, because that book meant something to me, but he meant something to me too. And who would have thought that the book I wrote in 4th grade mattered? Every single thing you do counts.
It's just different nowadays too. We end up talking a lot to our 5th graders sometimes about social media things and things they say, whether it's a text or a Snapchat, whatever it is, it all gets screenshotted. When we were kids, you could say something, you hit on earlier, no one remembers the next day what it was. I could say something to you and we didn't know each other. We'd be like, the next day, we'd be like, hey, what's going on? Let's go down the street and play. But today, it's all there. So it's so important to be aware of what you're saying, what you're doing, and certainly what you're putting out there, because it doesn't go away. Right. So you get to college, Mike. These next two questions, you kind of hit it already, but you go to BC, you want to be a lawyer. So obviously you major in law right away then?
Political science.
Political science, okay.
Because that's what they said lawyers did.
Okay.
I didn't know anything.
Yeah. So political science, you're there. You don't play football at BC right away. You go to school, you're at school. And then, again, Brockton is such a big deal. Football back then, there's multiple teammates of yours from high school that are there.
Yep.
And they ask you to try out. You know about hard work. They didn't recruit you to come to play football. You sort of talk about that.
Before that, so what happened was, so after high school, I make all scholastics and I play in the Shriners game. The Shriners game is the all-star game for football in Massachusetts. In that Shriners game, there was 10 kids that were going to Boston College. Me and another Brockton football player were playing in that, and we did well, but made good friends, good contacts at that spot. I go to college. The teachers picked it. I didn't even pick that. They told me you're going to go to Boston College, so I ended up going to Boston College. When I get to school, on say September 3rd, the first day of school, mind you, they've already practiced for a whole month. I see all the guys that I played with in the summer, and they're like, Mike, where you been? You need to come on down. I'm like, oh, okay. So I go down and I say, hey, I'm Mike Wins from Brockton. At the time, Brockton High is ranked number 1 in the country. So we were the number 1 team. My team was number 4. The next year when I left, that team was number 1 in the country. So Brockton High football had a lot of clout at that time. So Brockton High football was still the baddest thing in the world. And there was about 5 or 6 kids that Boston College wanted to come. So when I go down there, they were very nice and gracious, like, oh sure, come on out. Now when we talk, this is the quitting lesson. Like, they didn't recruit me, they didn't want me. They had already went through a whole month of football practice without me or knowing me or anything like that. So this little guy, and I'm undersized for college football, so this little guy shows up saying, yeah, I want to play football. Oh, and by the way, I'm from Brockton. They're like, oh, you're from Brockton? I'm like, yeah. So they're like, okay, you come out. They gave me a pair of sneakers, shorts, and a t-shirt, and they just made me run around the football field for 2 hours every day, for three days. That was my tryout. That was their attempt to break me, to get me to quit. I didn't play a single down of football. I didn't put on a pad. I didn't do any of that stuff for the first 3 days of football. And then I finally do get some football pads. They're way too big. They give me like lineman pads that are, the size of both of us put together. And they put me out there against this giant. And I'll tell you a story. So I'm not this big in college, and the guy's about 6 foot. I don't know if they've seen Aaron Montero, but 6'8", 300 pounds. And I go out there. He comes out of the huddle. He looks at me and he giggles. He goes, don't try to be no hero. And I'm like, yes, sir. So I knew my role at that particular point in time was to be his hitting dummy, and I accepted that role gladly. The alternative would not have worked out for me. But it was one of those situations where they were testing my mettle. They were testing me from a football perspective to see if I was going to quit. And there was no quit in the Brockton kid. That was one thing we all took pride in. There was never, ever going to be a chance where nothing you could do that's going to make me quit. So, I last throughout that year. I didn't even dress fresh. I didn't even dress that freshman year. I sat in the stands with regular people, even though I practiced every day. My locker was in the side room on the side. I didn't have a number or anything like that. So everything was designed to get you to quit, because they would make these conditions untenable for you. But again, I wasn't there to play football. I just played football. My sophomore year, that all changed. But from day one, I was there for academics, and I wasn't there for friends. I wasn't there for fun. I didn't enjoy the college experience the same way other people would enjoy college experience. I was single-minded in my approach. So my first year, I came home every weekend. I didn't really care to be at Boston College at all. I didn't like that school at all. It wasn't the school for me. I appreciate what college has done for me at this point,
but I did not particularly appreciate my college experience at Boston College. Like I said, I'm a city kid. I was from Brockton, and you know, I went there in the 80s or 90s. My nephew went there in the 2000s, and then Big A went there in the early 2000s. So, very little has changed in the 30 or 40 years at Boston College, except for the amount of rich people that are there has increased. But the school dynamic was not something that I enjoyed from a social standpoint, but from an academic standpoint, I appreciated what it offered. And so I just immersed myself in my academics and my grades, and I did what I needed to do from a academic standpoint, so that I was going to prepare myself for law school. I only applied to one law school, Boston College. I wasn't going anyplace else. It was, I'm going to be a lawyer, and this is what I'm going to do at Boston College. And if it didn't work out, then I was still going to go to Boston College somewhere, work it out. But I was single-minded in my approach. Like I said, when I say that I started at 13 years old, 12 or 13 years old, my best friend, her father was a judge in Plymouth Probate Family Court. He took me to court with him when I was 12 or 13 years old. So I started that journey a long time ago, and like I said, I was single-minded in my focus there. I didn't want to be a firefighter, police officer, doctor. I wanted to be a lawyer.
It gets back to that determination and having that hard work and never quit. Because no matter what it is you wanted to be, for Mike it was a lawyer, and Mike decided at a very young age, and he always worked towards it. And the never quit part, like, it takes hard work, nothing's easy. I mean, you wanted to be a lawyer, you put a lot of effort in to get to the point of getting to BC. Then you're multitasking football and your academics still. You have a chance to go to law school, you become a practicing lawyer, now you're a judge. Tell these kids just a little bit about what your life was like as a lawyer and how you became a judge.
So, my background has shaped me and my journey throughout life. So, growing up in Pine Grove, you have a lot of different people with different backgrounds that different needs. And I still live in Brockton. So I'm born and raised in Brockton. I live in Brockton all my life. And my goal has always been to help my people, Brockton people. No matter the color, race, whatever, Brockton has been first in my life. And it's helped me. I think that it's given me a lot of the blessings. People ask me all the time, Mike, why don't you leave Brockton? Why don't you leave Brockton, Mike? Why do you still live in Brockton? Why don't you move to Easton or Sharon or one of these other surrounding towns? And I will tell all of you that Brockton, this city, this town, has made me the man that I am. It's given me all the life lessons that I need to succeed. It's given me an advantage. It's given me a viewpoint that few can appreciate. So picture this. As we all sit here, a mixture, a cornucopia of young people, black, white, brown, yellow, green, doesn't really matter. You go to some of those other towns, they do not have this. They do not have this mixture, this diverse culture, this tapestry that we have. So as a result, their picture of life, of the world, or viewpoint is very, very narrow. They can't relate to other people. They can't relate to your hardships. They can't relate to, what do you mean you have to go pick up your brother and sister? How come your parents don't watch their own children? What do you mean you have to be home? What do you mean you have, people don't understand the troubles and the struggles that we have. So being from Brockton is not just a badge, but it is a testament to who we are, because we get to do things, or we get to experience things, some good, some bad, that some people will never get to experience. And that's what makes us special. That's what makes us special, is because we have a vision that not everybody can see. We can see what they see. They will never be able to see what we see. And I think that that's what gives us our leg up. That's what's always given me a great amount of pride. Not that, oh, I'm from Brockton, I'm tough. No, being tough is not what makes me proud to be from Brockton. Being diverse, and I'm not talking about our skin color, but I'm talking about our thought, that we can all think differently, that we can all have different ideas and still be successful. And I think that that's what has really, really profoundly impacted me throughout my journey, and why I'm in no hurry to leave Brockton. I fear I fear that that special quality that Brockton has given me, if I left, would leave me.
And Mike, so obviously you and I met almost 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I got to the city of Brockton. I didn't know Mike as a kid. I wasn't from Brockton. I started teaching in Brockton 29 years ago. I go to Stonehill College, I pick up basketball. Mike's there. And we stopped playing basketball for years, for decades. Just pick up and just get to know someone in that. And then eventually, you mentioned how both of my boys went through you, but kids in this city of Brockton, I think you mentioned the blessings you got and all the things that people gave to you, you want to give back. And you give back to everyone. A lot of you guys are younger now, but what I'm calling Mike Williams here is known throughout the city as Coach Mike. You say Coach Mike to anyone involved in the football program in the past 30 years, they know right away who it is. Mike gives back to this city and to these kids continuously. I want to talk about your next level program one because you talked about this isn't just about football. A couple kids have gone to the NFL. You've had a part of mentoring some kids who have gotten to go that far, but most of them don't. You talk about developing good men who are out doing things. There are so many kids that I've seen who have been better because of their time with you. We talk about kids getting punched in the mouth and have that adversity. I might have been that bubble parent way back when. So when Jack and Ryan both went to you, it was an opportunity for them to learn differently in that and, to get to the gym and work out. And so they went through all the Mike things, TJA, eventually there, and they were both so much better for it. And I'm just speaking about my own house, those two. But I've seen hundreds of kids and many kids around their age bracket that all were better off for you.
Yeah.
Some are now working in the schools, some are working to be teachers, looking to give back, plenty of different experiences they had. Talk to us a bit about what it is, and I think you might hit on it a bit, but what it is about that makes it so important for you to give back. Because again, everybody knows Coach Mike. And he's not easy. If you go up to Brockton High and the workouts, it isn't like, oh, come here, try that again. Like, he's on you to do your best. He is pushing you to do your best. We talk about in school, like, your best learning is when you struggle. If someone asks you what's 2 + 2, that's 4. That's too easy. You're not learning there. When you're going to struggle and work your way through things, that's true learning. You're in the football field being pushed and pushed and pushed. That's a different kind of learning.
Yes.
And you've done so much for so many. So talk about next level football, what it is you're doing and how you're trying to give back to kids in the city.
So when I started coaching 33, so 92. So 33 years ago is when I started coaching. And when I started coaching, what I had always recognized in the city is that we always had a lot of good football players, or good athletes. We have good athletes all the time, but many times, like myself, we don't have the right guidance or direction. So in my own household, my mother and father didn't know about the NCAA, they don't know about grades, they didn't know about academics, or any of the things that I needed to be really successful at sports or football. And I noticed that that's probably a need throughout the city. So I had probably about 15 to 20 years ago, the young people that I started training that played football for me, I would train them in high school now. 10 years ago, I was able to formalize a program in partnership with one of my adult mentors, Macy Russell, and we started a program at the Boys and Girls Club called Next Level Football. Now, Next Level Football is a program that's designed around football, but it uses football as a means to an end. The goal of Next Level Football is to provide young men and or women an opportunity to bridge the gap. So if you go to Fair Academy in Braintree or Severian or Catholic Memorial, they have resources that are built into their curriculum to help young men and women be successful academically and athletically. Brockton doesn't necessarily have all of those readily available, or it's very difficult to find. I suspect that if you looked hard enough, we probably do cover everything and then some that some of the private schools don't, but you have to get it piecemeal. There's no one place to get it all. My program was designed to help bridge that gap. So we provide academic training in the morning from 9 to 12, and then we will do athletic training from 1 to 3 at an indoor facility. We provide all the young men and women with vocabulary books, reading and writing materials. We provide them with outfit and gear. We want to put you on an even level. I understand that we can't fix the home stuff, but at least as far as resources are concerned, we try to provide our young people with all of the tangible resources that they need to be competitive. Now, the rest is up to them. They have to do the work, but they're not going to be able to say they didn't know or didn't have access to. So we provide them access to tutors. We provide them access to reading club. We provide them access to college campuses and college visits. We provide them the athletic, so we give them cleats, gloves, shorts, shirts, so that when they show up, they don't look out of place, that they look proper, that they behave proper. We teach them how to speak appropriately. We teach them how to interact. We teach them public speaking. We want to make sure that they're as prepared as everybody else when they get to when the opportunity presents itself, that they're ready for that opportunity. So that's what we try to do at Next Level. Me, from a holistic coaching perspective, what I've used coaching as, and like I said, I've been fortunate, is that I recognize that we did not have enough young professionals, people of color in the city. And what I wanted to do was to create that. So I wanted these young men to have, or to be, the person that they needed when they were growing up. Now, I'm one of many, but as I've gotten older, like my nephew is an assistant principal, my other young man is an assistant principal, the Norman brothers, the Fortses, all of those kids are all working thing. Tay's one of mine, Ryan's one of mine.
She was making sure she got down here to say hello.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I've coached men and women throughout the years. Her dad, we go back. I've had a lot of success. Like, the greatest thing for me is never been my personal achievement. So I'm a lawyer and I'm a judge. Being a lawyer, I have an opportunity to affect people's lives. I get to listen to stories, discern the truth, fiction, facts, and I get to make decisions based on the information that I'm given. Part of that ability has come from the city of Brockton. Having that interactions with different people of different types gives me a leg up and insight. I am so I work in an agency where there's 28 judges. Out of those 28 judges, I'm the only judge of color. There's one other Cuban judge, and then there's me. And none of those other judges live in communities of color. So I work out of the Fall River office, and the majority of the individuals that come before me are people of color. Imagine being in an agency where the majority of the individuals that come before that agency are people of color, and they never see a person of color. But when they come into my courtroom, they see me. Not that that makes me better or worse, it just means that you have an opportunity to see someone like me, and I think that we need more opportunities like that. So we need more young people to be aggressive in their aspirations, meaning I want them to be great. So when I teach football, I'm not teaching football, I'm teaching greatness. And that I want you to be great in whatever you do. One of my young men is an HVAC guy. I want him to be the best HVAC guy that he is. One of my young men's in the military. One of my young men is working as a mechanic. I have a young man that's a plumber. I have a young man that's a contractor. I want them to be great in every single vocation that they are. Football allowed me to communicate that message to them because I don't care about football. My nephew, one of the greatest football players that I ever seen, I am so happy he's not in the NFL. I am so happy that his life isn't on hold being the 58th man on the roster for the last 4 or 5 years, having his life being placed on hold. That as a 30-year-old man, he's a homeowner 2 times older, he's a father, he's a role model, he's a leader. And for me, that is way more important than any of the accolades he could have ever achieved at football. And I want that for everybody. So when I teach football, when I teach Next Level, or when I use football to teach, it's because
Mr. Kelly, can you call the nursing office, please?
I want all of these people to be great at whatever they do. I'm not a huge guy, oh, you have to go to college, or you have to do this, or you have to do this. But being great is a process. And whether you're going to be, my brother's the best barber around. So he's a barber. My other brother is not a professional in the traditional sense, but he's a manager in an industry that's suitable to him. I want them to be great at whatever they do, and realistically great. I'm not saying that you can and can't do everything or anything. You know, I'm not going to be in the NFL. I wasn't going to be in the NBA. That wasn't realistic. You know what I mean? So having realistic goals and being able to work towards those goals, having a plan, I think that's what football has taught me. That's what football has allowed me to do. And being a judge, I use as much the lessons from football than I did anything teaching in college and law school.
No, and I think that the one thing I'll say is that anyone who's ever gone to work out with you, been mentored by you, all you ask is they give their best. And when they do, you give the shirt off your back to them, if they give what they got. You know, if they make the choice they don't want to, they have that quit in them, you try and get it out of them, but if it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work. But anyone who's ever come from the city to you and put effort in, you gave everything back to them. And I'm sure it's because of what you got in your younger days.
I trained a young man at TGA, so I've done TGA for 20 years. And one of the things that used to make me feel real good is that at TGA, so TGA is a gym that I used to train the kids in the off season, and part of that training was difficult, but it required us to be there every day. We were there. We started December 1st, and we went to August 1st, and for 20 years we did that. I would say is that out of the young men that came and worked out with me, for those 20 years, 99.9% of those young men went on and enrolled in four-year colleges. There's nobody that came to work with me that wasn't about their business. You don't come see Coach Mike if you're there to fool around. 99.9% of the young men that came through TGA, and women too, went on to enroll in four-year colleges and are all very successful. And with the Next Level program, the same thing. We have, they can start from freshman to 11th grade. We are placing over 90%, I think it's 92, but 90% of the young people that start at the 9th grade and finish through the 11th grade are enrolling in four-year colleges. So I'm very mindful of how important education is, but I know that it's not the only path to success. But I am very proud of the people that are around me, my circle, my new circle versus my old circle, is that when you have good people around you and when you surround yourself with good people, you're gonna do good things. And I've been fortunate for the last 30 years to have good people come with me, through me, around me. And like I told you, it's been a blessing for me, and I can't explain it other than the fact that the universe has a plan, God has a plan, and I'm just executing it.
Well, they had a plan with you, and you're giving that back. And again, we talk about routines, habits, build on a foundation.
Yeah.
That's what you do for these kids. And then where they take it from there is where they take it from there.
So all I can do is plant the seed.
So, couple of last quick questions. We have a couple of questions in the audience, but these kids might not have known the Brockton High football players you mentioned. They're a little bit younger, but they do know the NFL guys. So, NFL-wise, what's your favorite team, or what are the couple favorite players of yours? And to give them an image of Mike Williams, the football player, what player in today's game would have played a similar style to you?
So, coaching football has ruined me as from a casual observer. I don't watch football the way that everybody else watches football, so I can't enjoy it. I watch players, so I root for the Patriots because they're my home team. But because players are able to change teams so frequently and so easily, it's very difficult to remain loyal to a team. I like players. So I like Tom Brady. When Tom Brady played for the Patriots, I liked him here. When he played for the Tampa Bay Bucks, I liked him there. And the reason why I liked him is because of his mentality, the way that he prepared. He wasn't the most physically gifted person in the game, but he got the most out of his ability because the way that he prepared in his mind. So I have a great deal of appreciation for him. From a defensive standpoint, so my position has morphed over the years. Some of the people wouldn't recognize him, but Matt Milano for the Buffalo Bills is probably my guy. He started as a special teams demon, running down on the field. He plays that outside linebacker spot where he comes off the edge, he covers, he does a little bit of everything, but he's probably the most closely relatable individual to the position that I actually played in college. But Pat Mahomes, I think, is different because I love watching how he plays the game because I think he makes it exciting to watch. I'm not a huge fan of him personally, but I do like his athleticism as a football player, and so the offensive guys I still watch and enjoy, but football has become so. Everything is the same. Everything is the same. Luke Kuechly doesn't play anymore, but he's one of the guys that I really enjoyed watching. We're looking to see some of these young guys that'll play, but there's nobody that really jumps out, stands out. Because when I watch football, I'm watching it for the X's and O's. I'm watching it like I'm watching film, like a coach. So it's really boring to me.
I'm watching it, cheering down the field, trying to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
You're picking out, what about this, what about that? Why
Yeah,
did you do that?
I'm watching a lineman miss his block, and I'm watching that stupid missed tackle, and I'm just like, he's terrible. He's the best in the world, but he's terrible today.
All right, so again, I said before, I think if I was going to encompass who you are, it's a young man from Brockton who was given so much and is now in return giving so much back. I know you're super proud of Brockton. You said you are Brockton through and through. Boys and girls, I hope you got a lot from Mike today. I know there are a few of you who question. If you have a question, let's come down the side, line up as we have the others, and one by one, Mike will answer a few questions. Florida Mary, come on down.
Best decision in my career.
I'm sorry, what happened, Mike?
What is nice and loud, boys and girls? When you come up here, nice and loud to the mic, okay? Her question was, what has been the best decision you made, or favorite decision you made during your career?
Let me ask you a question back. So I like to think about it in two ways: as a football coach or as a lawyer.
Both.
Okay.
She wants both sides.
Perfect. So the best decision that I ever made was deciding to coach. I think I started coaching 10-year-old kids at 23 years of age. At 23 years of age, I'm still growing as a young person and everything like that. However, being charged with the responsibility of leading, guiding, and influencing young people was the best decision I made because it made me the man that I am. I had to be better than I probably would have been. If I didn't have that responsibility of young people looking at me, I don't know if I would have been the good guy that I am now. But knowing that I don't curse in front of the kids, I'm not yelling like that, I'm not going crazy. And they probably, I give back, but when I say that they've given me as much as I've given them, the people that I've raised and coached have made me a better person. And so that's probably the best decision that I've ever made from a football perspective, and from a professional perspective. I'm not gonna lie, even though I didn't enjoy it, going to Boston College was the best decision that I made. In this particular area, that school, the influence that it has, the people that really respect it, was really, really, really a great decision for me. So thank you for that question, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Connor. Danielle?
What sacrifices did you have to make in your life to get where you are today?
So, for me, good question. So for me, everybody wants everything fast. I didn't have that luxury. I didn't have the ability to do the things that other people did. So for instance, I never took a spring break trip. I never got to travel. I never got to fly. I didn't do any of that stuff like that because I had to work. So Christmas break, when people are going and traveling, I'm working. When summer break, when kids are not working, I'm working. On spring break, I'm working. Any chance that I got from high school through law school, I was working every chance I could to put money in the bank because I didn't have anybody that could pay for my stuff. I am a Boston college graduate, right? So I got a degree, big old diploma sitting on my home. You know what my job was that summer after I graduated college from Boston College, this big job. I'm gonna tell you my job. My job was, you see those big trucks that drive around here, the UPS trucks, stuff like that? In yesterday's weather, my job was to load the boxes into the back of that truck with my Boston College degree. That was my first job. So you talk about sacrifices. I didn't have daddy to say, hey, come work in my office with your nice suit and tie. No, Coach Mike Wins was loading boxes in the back of a truck with his Boston College degree. So those are the sacrifices. I don't know if it's sacrifices. Those were the character building moments that I had, though. Thank you very much. I appreciate your question.
Yeah, you too.
How long does it take to become a lawyer?
Ooh, that's a good, easy question. Nice and easy. So 4 years of college. And most law school programs are 3 years, but they have some that are 4 years because they can do them at nighttime and stuff like that. So I would say 8 years, and then however long it takes to pass the bar. So 7 years, the fastest. 8 to 9 years, you know, at the top end. So good question. Thank you very much.
You gonna be a lawyer?
We need some. We need more. We need
One that
more.
win.
Is there a case that you have worked on that you think was completely ridiculous?
Yes. So the kind of law I do is a little bit different, but I will tell you this is that my very first case that I got, it was, so I decide if people get hurt at work or not. One of the things they get hurt at work. And you can get hurt and still do some things, and you can get hurt and not do some things. I had a person who I knew was hurt. She had a bad attorney. And I wrote a decision taking care of the person. I give it to the person who's reviewing, and he goes, okay, what about this? And I'm like, what do you mean? You don't have what you need to write in here. So I go to the attorney and I say, Mr. Attorney, you didn't give me what I need to take care of that. And he goes, oh, that's what he said, oh. He said, oh. I'm like, he's like, okay, Your Honor, thank you. And he didn't give me what I needed, so I have to go and write a decision not taking care of that lady because that attorney didn't do his job. I couldn't fix it and I couldn't help it. It was my very first case. I was so angry and so mad. But when you talk about ridiculous, everybody knew it was wrong but him. And so, but I couldn't fix it and change it because I can't do the attorney's job for him.
And you
So,
tried to give him a second chance, and he gave you
3 chances. I said, are you sure? And he's like, no, I'm good. So that was the most ridiculous thing that ever happened to me. And that was the first case, my first case that I had to write, my first time out the box. And everyone's looking at me like I'm crazy because I wrote this ridiculous decision. But yeah, it happens, unfortunately. Thank you very much. I didn't want to have to relive that.
Peyton.
What was your biggest regret as a kid?
Not playing baseball. I played football because I could, but I really loved baseball. And football was the sexy sport. Football was the big sport. Everyone played football. But I was so much better at baseball. And I wish that I had continued to play baseball because I enjoyed baseball more than I enjoyed football. And that's one of the things about peer pressure and doing things that everyone else does is that sometimes even young person, even smart people, even strong people, we follow the crowd. And the crowd was playing football, so that's where I went. And everyone said, oh, you should play football, you should play football. So I should have played, so I played football. But I played baseball since I was like 9, 8 years old. I played, farm league, what is that, 7?
Yeah.
So I was hitting the ball off the tee all the way up, and then I just stopped playing baseball to play football, a sport that I liked but didn't love. And I loved baseball, so, do what you love, not what everybody else wants you to do.
Tony.
What made you decide to become a judge?
It wasn't me. It was an opportunity that was presented to me. As many of you guys will get opportunities. People are gonna come and say, hey, would you like to? Hey, would you like to? Hey, would you like to do something? And sometimes me, can't see what's the best thing for us. That's why we have good people in front of us that are trying to tell us what's best for us. Not trying to decide your life, but leading you in the right direction. So for me personally, I was happy being an attorney. I love being an attorney. So that wasn't an issue. So when I'm sitting there minding my business, someone literally just came up to me and said, hey, would you like to be a judge? And I'm like, I didn't think about it like that. And they was like, stop thinking about it. And so as a result of going through that process, I had other people come and say to me, Mike, this is an opportunity you should take advantage of. And from there, that's how I decided to be a judge. But I was just okay being, not just okay, I was ecstatic being a lawyer. I love being a lawyer, but I also love being a judge now. But that was an opportunity that was presented to me because of the work that I had done, I guess. But yeah, it wasn't something that I sought after, like, oh, I'm gonna be a judge, I wanna be a judge. No, I just wanted to be a lawyer, I'd be a lawyer. But thank you very much, I appreciate you.
Mr. Hudson? What about football players here for the Raiders?
Okay.
Was it hard for playing for football?
Yes. Football is always going to be hard. That's the way it's meant to be. Football is meant to be hard. You get used to it. That's what I tell the young men. It's never going to get easier. You just get used to being tough. And if it's too easy, then it's probably not good for you. You know what I mean? So when we're playing, if practice isn't hard enough, if the workouts aren't hard enough, then you're not doing it right. Because I don't think that, and I've been doing it for 30 years. I lift every day. We still go to the gym. And it's never easy. There's no day I go to the gym like, oh, this is an easy day. Even my easy days, I'm gonna tell you, even my easy days is crazy. So football, sports, it's not supposed to be easy. You know what I mean? It's fun. Winning is fun. You know what I'm saying? But football's not supposed to be easy. So it's never an easy day. And if it's too easy, then it's probably not being done right. That's my thought on it.
Do you agree with that? You work hard at practice, right? But the fun part is all the work you put in to get to Saturday or Sunday, depending on where you're playing.
If it's done right, the workouts should be harder than the game. The game should be easy. The workouts should be hard. So that's the way it was with us.
Great question. So boys and girls, let's put our hands together and thank Coach Mike. One second. I touched on a lot of topics, Mike. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to share with these kids here?
Just briefly, like I said, my mentorship isn't just restricted to football or young men. One of my favorite players. I think she has a record. She scored a touchdown for Brock and I. She's at Stanford right now. Mackenzie is the #1 student at Stanford in her class right now. And I'm saying from a coaching perspective, she came to me when she was, I think, a sophomore, to train her and work with her. And she's an outstanding student athlete. She plays rugby now too. But what I would say is that I genuinely believe that in this city, in this school, in this place right now, that there's greatness amongst you. I genuinely believe that. I've seen it. You know what I mean? I get to see it all the time, over and over and over again, and that's what keeps me going. I just encourage all of you. I know that you don't hear it enough. You hear from your teachers. You may not hear from your friends. You may not hear from things, but I'm a stranger, a stone cold stranger who don't know any of you. But I'll tell you that if someone who doesn't know you wishes you well and wants you to be great, imagine how your parents feel. Imagine how your family and how your friends feel. And it's your job, it's your obligation, it's your duty to be the best version of yourself that you can be. And it's not too early. I'm telling you, at 5th grade, 4th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, it is not too early. It goes by fast. And before you know it, you're going to be seniors in high school and you're going to wonder what you do with the last 5 or 6 years of your life. Make the most of it. Enjoy it. Embrace it. Be the best version of the young people that you can be. But don't let anybody dim your light. None of you, because I sit here as a young man who went through it just like all y'all did. I had single parents, grew up in Pine Grove. You know, I don't know if y'all even know, y'all don't know nothing about having to use the white bread for the bun. Y'all don't know about, having to make peanut butter sandwiches or just peanut butter on crackers. They don't know nothing about that. You know, y'all know about ramen, but y'all think ramen is like a delicacy. Ramen was a necessity when we grew up. Like, that's all we had was ramen noodles. Y'all look at it like, oh yeah, no, we didn't have nothing but ramen. So I grew up, I'm not saying I'm from the trenches, because I'm not. My parents were great, but we all had similar struggles, and where I sit now is where I want to see you guys in a few years, in a couple of years coming back. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and give back anytime. And if you play football in the city of Brockton, you will see me someday. It's inevitable, like Thanos.
Perfect, well said. Again, thank you so much, Mike. Boys and girls, teachers, if we can head out, because kindergarten lunch is gonna start.